Hi, everybody. Joe Malarkey with Malarkey 365 back with you. I was having a conversation the other day with somebody who wanted to take a SOC system using a non-Microsoft tool, antivirus, cloud-delivered antivirus, script protection, general reporting on what's going on the machine, a little SIM thing from the machine. They wanted to take that and replace it with the Defender product line, or they just said Defender, like people do. They don't really know what Defender is. They just say Defender. And they asked me how easy it would be to switch that over. We just want to take this stuff from this product and we want to put it into the Defender product. And how easy is that? And how easy and quickly can we get Defender set up just like the other thing? And my answer to that was, it's not easy and it's not quick at all, because there's a million different things that come together in the Defender product. So let's start from zero and talk about what we need to do first. And we're going to focus on the endpoints because that's what people think of first. And then they start thinking of other stuff like apps and the cloud apps and Dropbox and whatever else. We're worried about that stuff. So that's what we're going to try and cover in a series. And I swear this time it's going to be a series. I won't leave you hanging. Stay tuned. So the first question when you're talking about Defender is to narrow down, what are people talking about? What features are they looking to get? Because you have to remember something back in the day, not too long ago, let's say 10 years, 15 years ago, when we talked about a SOC, and we were really talking about endpoint detection and response. Endpoint detection, really just getting an antivirus on the devices, protecting them. Maybe, we got a firewall, the network team takes care of it. We were really just concerned with maybe just antivirus. That's our main concern. Now, however, obviously that's been expanded, right? Yeah, we're still concerned about the desktops themselves. Mostly Windows, let's face it, it's still 99% probably of workstations out there. Companies are Windows, not every company, but most companies. So we're still really concerned with the desktop. So that's a huge thing. And antivirus, yes, antivirus, absolutely. We got to be paying attention to that. If you ask me though, what's the biggest thing I'm worried about? Antivirus ain't it. But it's up there in the top few. So we definitely got to look at that. But in the modern world, we're looking at other things. So I put this slide together. It's a little busy, I know, but let's just take a look at it. You want to take a screen cap of it? That's fine. Take a screen cap of it. Be my guest. So in the Microsoft world, this is a good place to start, because in the Microsoft world, the Defender product kind of is pointed at all the things we might be concerned with. We have 4 main Defender products. There's extra Defender products, Defender for Cloud, which I'll mention, some add-ons for Defender like the new, Advanced Defender for Vulnerability, blah, blah, blah. But right now, let's just focus on these 4 pillars of Defender. First of all, the main one that everybody thinks of when somebody says Defender, and that's all they say, probably what they're talking about is Defender for Endpoint. Now, there's like 3 different Defender for Endpoints. I don't make the rules. Microsoft does. Don't blame me. Defender for Endpoint Plan 2 is the big one. That used to be what was just called Defender for Endpoint. But then Microsoft decided, hey, maybe we can chop out some features and throw those features into one of our main licenses, and that'd be a good starting point for people, and then they can upgrade to the full Defender. Now, what are we going to do? Well, now we got to call them Defender for Endpoint Plan 1 and Defender for Endpoint Plan 2. Great. And then somebody had a great idea. Hey, we got this kind of the middle of the road product, general license called a Business Premium. In fact, we got a whole slew of licenses called Business Basic, Business Premium. And these are for companies that have 300 or less seats. Quite a few companies, right? let's make a Defender product line for that. And what should we do? Should we give them Defender for Endpoint Plan 1 or Defender for Endpoint Plan 2? I got a great idea, someone at Microsoft said. Let's make it somewhere in the middle of those two. And that is what Defender for Business is. I think they're called it Defender for Business. It's closer to the Defender for Endpoint Plan 2 than Plan 1, but it's not either. So the licensing fun will never stop with Microsoft. If you know a lot about Microsoft licensing, you could actually earn probably a living just telling people, hey, no, you can't do this license, or this license covers that, or that license covers that, or even better yet, hey, you know what? Turns out you're using some features and your users, let's say 500 of your users are benefiting from a license feature that you're not paying for. Now, if Microsoft sees that, they're going to charge you X amount of dollars. If 5 years goes by, you could end up owing them $1 million. Who knows? And that's for real. That happens all the time. All right, back it up. So let's just talk about the main products here. So Defender for Endpoint Plan 2, the big one. This is your cloud-delivered antivirus protection. What does that mean? Well, we deliver some stuff from the cloud right to the machine, telling it how to configure itself, what to do. Do you do a scan every day? Is it a quick scan? Is it a full scan? We turn on, the always-on protection. Do we tell machines to send stuff up to the cloud? All this kind of stuff that we do for antivirus. We actually deliver that, preferably through Intune. These are settings that we have to send to the device. We could send them down through group policy, or we could put it right on the machine, or a script or whatever. But yeah, Intune is built in. It's all set to go. So we probably send that down through Intune. But that's not all cloud delivered AV protection means. It means we're actually telling the device, hey, if you can't figure something out on your own, send it up here. We'll explode it up here. We'll see if it does something nasty. Maybe we'll take up to a minute to do that, and then we'll come back to you and say, hey, there was a problem with that. Don't allow the user to open that. Or even further than that, we see that with 10, 20 machines within a certain amount of time. We start isolating machines, automated stuff starts happening. So all sorts of cool things like that. So cloud delivered AV protection, device vulnerability reporting. Yeah, we query the machine and see, hey, is it two versions old on Adobe or something like that, and all these CVEs are showing up that make your device super vulnerable, or BIOS or whatever else it might be. So that comes with it. Web filtering. Web filtering meaning we're going to keep people from going to, gambling sites, new domains, which are used for adversary in the middle attacks, things like that. We can send that down to machines in Defender for Endpoint Plan 2. And also custom indicator. We can just block certain server names on the internet, or allow files, or whatever. Attack surface reduction rules. These are a bunch of weird, about a dozen rules that we can start telling Windows about, to tell it, hey, don't do these things that are known to be used in attacks that were conveniences at one time, but somebody took advantage of them. Like what? Well, how about, speaking of Adobe, not allowing Adobe to create child processes or inject something into another process, things like that. And then automated investigation and response. The name of the game these days, and AI is getting into this as well, is to ease the burden on the SOC. The more you do that, the more the fewer SOC people you need to hire, and the quicker they are at doing their jobs. And now we have Copilot for security, or Security Copilot. Microsoft has called it both things. That's coming, and that actually can help your SOC. That's a consumption-based product. We're not going to talk about it in this series. Oh, what the heck, I might talk about it at the end. But anyway, these are the pillars these are the main points of Defender for Endpoint Plan 2. Okay. There's three others, right? Defender for Cloud Apps. This is the CASB. They used to call it the CASB, but not anymore. Now it's got to have Defender, and Defender for Cloud Apps. The last word, apps, is very important. Why? Because there's a whole different product called Defender for Cloud. Got nothing to do with SaaS apps. Defender for Cloud is the CNAPP. if you will, from Microsoft. It's what you can enable in Azure or AWS or the Google Cloud Platform to look at containers, Kubernetes things, storage, virtual machines, of course. So all of these workloads come under the umbrella of Defender for Cloud. Defender for Cloud Apps is not Defender for Cloud. Two different things. Okay. So Defender for Cloud Apps, CASB, it's, discovering what apps our users are going to, things like that. And then after you discover it, doing something with it. Creating policies, alert policies, session policies, access policies, blocking certain things, using the API, doing DLP, all sorts of stuff like that for our non-Microsoft SaaS apps. Microsoft SaaS apps, we already are already doing that. You can turn on DLP, right, for Exchange or SharePoint. Well, Microsoft's actually using their Cloud App Security broker to do that. They just don't call it that. But if you want to use somebody else's stuff, then they do call it that. In fact, you can also onboard fully Microsoft's SaaS apps into the Defender for Cloud Apps and take advantage of all sorts of cool things. And you can actually do that without getting a big license like the Defender for Cloud Apps or Defender, the whole product line. Okay, anyway, so that's a big thing. Defender for Office 365. This is Defender for email. They don't call it Defender for email, of course, because there's other stuff that you use it for. There's Teams, chats, right? That's not email. And also part of Defender for Office, amongst things like, anti-spam, anti-phishing, impersonation, protections, turning off forwarding, all that stuff, of course. But you also can do things like have Defender for Office look for links in messages and check them out. Say, oh, this looks like a safe link, or this is on the naughty list of known bad sites, and even downloads, right? Documents that are there. So it helps you out with that. Well, Defender for Office, another reason it's not called Defender for Email, Defender for Office, is it'll actually look at Office documents and links in the Office documents. Like there might be a link in your Word document or your PowerPoint that you're looking at online. It'll look at that as well. All right, then Defender for Identity. Probably the least used one of these, but potentially the most important. So most companies still are syncing users from their on-premise Active Directory using either the Entra Cloud Sync, the sync app that's running on a server on the domain, syncing stuff with sync rules between the domain and Microsoft 365 Entra. And then there's also the Entra Cloud Sync, which is a cloud version of that is a newer version that Microsoft wants everybody to use. Does pretty much the same thing, just a little more flexible, more lightweight. So what does Defender for Identity do? Well, Defender for Identity is something that you can install and work with to take a look at the domain. You actually put sensors on domain controllers, and you got to turn on some extra auditing for domain controllers, and allow a few things, like allow the sensors on a domain controller, or you could have sensors on a regular server, reach out to all the devices on the domain and look at their administrative groups to see if, hey, is somebody logging on or creating another administrator account or whatever. The whole idea is to look for things like lateral movement on the domain, people trying to make their way to domain admin, to getting onto the domain controllers. So all sorts of things, telemetry you get from logon events, but attempted logon events, weird things happening, creation of groups, stale administrators that haven't been logged on within a year and a half, just sitting in the domain admins group. You'll get all that information in the portal. So Defender for Identity takes a little while to enable it. A couple hours. You got to install a couple of things ahead of the sensor. Then you got to install the sensor. You got to turn on auditing, all this extra stuff on your domain. And then you start getting the telemetry. So not just a quick thing you turn on, but that's the other pillar of Defender. So that's Defender. What else do we use with the word Defender? Well, the antivirus that comes with Windows. Yep, we all know that. Windows Defender. I think it's Windows Defender. Yeah, it used to just be called Defender, and then we had all these other Defender things. Defender became a brand. It's an umbrella, So Windows Defender is the antivirus that's built into Windows. Then, as I mentioned before, we have Defender for Cloud. That's protecting the workloads in Azure or AWS or Google Cloud. And then there's some other Defender add-ons there, but that's pretty much it. So I have a couple things that are listed for Defender Identity: lateral movement, domain takeover, detections, looking at weird things against suspicious events, stale domain accounts. So you got to decide, what are we actually looking for at first, okay? Or in the next year, because when you buy the license, much cheaper, right, to buy a year's worth of license. You don't want to buy a year of license on something and then say, oh, we're never going to use that, and figure that out 2 months later, because, it's not like you can go backwards. So, better to start out just with what absolutely we're going to use this, and then maybe we can add on later. Microsoft you have no problem adding stuff on, right? Taking stuff off your order, yeah, that's where you come into a little bit of problem. So everything in blue, how do you get that stuff? Well, Microsoft 365 E5 Cadillac license, you get all that stuff, right? That's the green. Microsoft 365 E3, probably just about the most common one. Business Premium might be. I actually haven't looked it up, but who cares? Microsoft 365 E3. Microsoft 365, not Office 365. Office 365 doesn't come with anything. Forget that. You got to add EMS onto that, and then you got to add everything. So Microsoft 365 E3. Well, that comes actually with Defender for Endpoint Plan 1, believe it or not. Which is actually really good. Everybody should be using that if you don't have anything else. That's cloud delivered AV protection. Right out of the box, you get that built into Microsoft 365 E3. Yeah, we'll probably do another video on that, on what you get with that. We're talking about the big one, though. All four of those things, how can we get that if we have a Microsoft 365 E3 license? Well, you add on the Microsoft E5 Security, or Security E5, whatever it's being called. That's about $12. I mentioned that because there's another E5 license add-on that has the word security in it. EMS E5. Don't get that. Most of the EMS already comes with Microsoft 365 E3. That's the old EMS that came with that. That's the Entra P2 license. Got the AIP Plan 2 license, or MIP, Microsoft Information Protection Labeling, basically. And then also Intune comes with that as well. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the security stuff, which really is most of Defender. That's really what you're buying there. Business Premium. Business Premium, again, it's a weird thing. It comes with a lot of all the Defender products, but you're missing some stuff. No XDR, like correlation of events. Not much of that going on. You get Defender for Office, really Plan 1. You don't get like the training and the simulations with that. Maximum 300 users. There's a limitation of the actions you can take in Defender for Endpoint. Like not a lot of automation, hunting, things like that. So you do got a lot of caveats with that. But recently, and this video is on the 25th of May, 2025. Recently, Microsoft has decided that they're going to allow you to purchase the Microsoft Security E5. Same thing I was just talking about, for Business Premium. I forget the cost, but that'll bring you up to getting the full Defender product line with Business Premium. So they kind of got you halfway there from, the Plan 1, Plan 2, and all the other stuff. Well, this one brings it all to you. So you can actually do that now. I don't have that on this slide, but anyway. So that's what you got to do. First of all, let's start out with what's super important. What do we need to take care of this year? Everything? Probably. That's a lot of work. So we're probably focusing on a few things. Email, endpoints, cloud apps. Yeah, some beginning work on that. Defender for Identity, I'd recommend. So you just have to decide what you want. and what comes with what license. If you only want 2 of these things, okay, now we got to go into another video and talk about how you get this one, how you get that one, and I will do that. But over on the left here on my slide, I say just Defender for Endpoint. You could just buy Defender for Endpoint Plan 2, about $5, okay, give or take. I don't know why I put remote help in there, but that's an add-on for Intune. So everything's an add-on now. Microsoft's been crazy with that in the last 5 years, making it really confusing. But yes, you can actually just, if you're interested in Defender for Endpoint, you can just buy that all by itself. Cloud delivered protection, the vulnerability, the basic vulnerability, because there's a vulnerability add-on, of course. All that stuff just for the endpoint for about $5 per user. All right. I think that'll do it for today. I meant this to be like a 10-minute one, and now it's probably like, hour and a half by this time. Sorry about that, but stick around. The next video, we're going to talk about, okay, now we decided one of the main things we want to do is protect our endpoints. What do we need to do to get started? And that's going to be in the next video. We're going to have some Intune involved, the Defender portal, all that fun stuff. So stick around and stay safe out there.